Well, wubba lubba dub dub, motherfuckers. What's going on, everybody? New viewers, old viewers, maybe new subscribers, and to all my OG subscribers. Hello, it is I, everyone's favorite jack of all trades with a foul mouth, Common Urban, and I've got a good one for you today. An awesome book review. And I just want to say, I just got done listening to a song that was on a CD. I have a CD, Johnny Horton, legendary country singer. He's done classics like the Battle of New Orleans, Honky Tonk Man, and North to Alaska. But he did a song, and I'll explain a little bit about it here in a moment. But anyway, the song I'm referring to is Sink the Bismarck. Hence the illustration from Ship, a visual encyclopedia, behind me, because I don't have any models of the Bismarck or anything fucking like that, so that's the next best thing. Anyway, the book I'm going to review to you guys is a classic. This book was originally, the original publishing date for this book was 1958. And this one is a 1978 edition, so this book's about 40 some odd years old. And the book I'm talking about is The Last 9 Days of the Bismarck by C.S. Forrester. Okay, this is actually a good little read, and it took me about 2-3 days, but if you had an entire afternoon that nobody would fucking bother you with shit or nothing, you could get this done. All together, with the last pages and stuff, 138 page book, 138 pages, so it's relatively pretty simple. Classic book, amazing, and this book is the story about the last 9 days of the Bismarck, from when she broke out of Norway, when she left. I don't want to tell you wrong, because I don't. Geneva Harbor is where she sailed from, and then she sailed through the straits, and then she broke out of Norway. But this was about the Battle of the Bismarck, or the chase, or the hunt for the Bismarck. And of course, as you all know, during this epic hunt, of course, at the very beginning part of it, she was accompanied by the German, or the German naval heavy cruiser Prince Eugen. And these two ships were sent out, Operation Rhine, to go and attack convoys. That was their main purpose, to attack convoys, with the intention, as this book says, what they wanted the Bismarck to really attack was either the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth. That's the main reason why she went up to the Atlantic, is to find the big troop carriers and to attack them. But as we all know, during this confrontation, the British kept on the Bismarck's and Eugen's heels with a bunch of little dirty tactics, including the Suffolk hiding in the fog, keeping a radio signal with the ships. And of course, as you all know, the famous encounter of the Bismarck and Prince Eugen versus the legendary British battlecruiser HMS Hood, and newly fresh from the shipyard, HMS Prince of Wales. As you all know, that encounter was really, really fucking hard. One lucky shot from the Bismarck hit into the back end of the Hood, and of course she blew up in a fucking massive fireball. And of course, at the same time, massive damage was done to Prince of Wales, and she turned around and retreated. And of course, for about 6 days or so afterwards, the British were trying to fucking find her, and then finally they pinpointed her. And of course, they sent, what fleet was that? What was the task force? Damn it, I just read this earlier, just finished it, and I can't believe it. Force H, yeah, it was Force H. They sent Force H after her, which one of with the legendary aircraft carrier Ark Royal, and it was the Ark Royal Swordfish torpedo planes that actually stopped the Bismarck from going any further into Nazi-occupied France. Because had she have gotten into Luftwaffe territory, the British were screwed. But because of several lucky shots into the Bismarck, including into the back end here that fucked the rudders up, the Bismarck was stuck going around in a massive circle. And of course, King George V, Rodney, and several destroyers moved in on her, and they just pummeled her ass to shit. It's a very, very, very graphic retelling of those encounters. And as Mr. C.S. Forrester puts it, this is as it may have happened. The speeches are composed by the writer, who has no knowledge that these words were used. But the writer has no doubt that similar speeches were made, except in a few places where the truth is not known or where the records are not open to the public. The actual course of events has been recounted. Although many of the characters here represented had no actual existence, they at least had their counterparts. So, it's a very gripping, really gripping book. I mean, once you start on page 3, where it starts, it draws you in. And then by the time when you get to page 138, you're like, whoa. And I'll read you a tiny bit here, the last part of this book here. It says, Bismarck lay, a shattered, burning, sinking hulk, as Dorsetshire approached. At 2 miles she fired 2 torpedoes, which burst on Bismarck's starboard side. At 1.5 miles she fired another, which burst on the port side of the wreck. Bismarck rolled over and sank, leaving the surface covered with debris and struggling men. Bismarck sunk, said the young officer in the war room. Bismarck sunk. Pretty powerful shit. Now, it's an older book, but it's a classic, and I really enjoyed it because, when I was younger, probably about 11, 12 years old, I actually had a really strong interest in the Bismarck and the Hood. I still do have an interest in the Bismarck and the Hood, but this kind of rekindled that interest. So I will give the book, 5 out of 5 fucking stars, and I give it 2 thumbs up. Great book. So if you guys want to have a nice little historical lesson about the Bismarck that won't take too long to read and you have a better understanding of what happened, The Last 9 Days of the Bismarck by C.S. Forrester. It is absolutely classic. Check it out. And before I leave y'all, I'm going to tell you a little story. I don't know if this is true or not, but it was this book. Johnny Horton, like I told you earlier, the country singer, he read this book, and from this book, he composed the song Sink the Bismarck. So it's from reading this book, Johnny Horton wrote the song Sink the Bismarck from reading this. And you know what, for you guys, I usually don't fucking do this shit, but for you guys, this will be a little treat. I will sing to you guys my rendition of that song Sink the Bismarck. It may not be 100% to what Johnny Horton's version is, but, I'll try to make it, okay? So, I hope you guys enjoy. So, in May in 1941, the war had just begun. The Germans had the biggest ship that had the biggest guns. The Bismarck was the fastest ship that ever sailed the sea. On her decks were guns as big as steers and shells as big as trees. Out of the cold and foggy night came the British ship, the Hood, and every British seaman he knew and understood. They had to sink the Bismarck, the terror of the sea. Stop those guns as big as steers and their shells as big as trees. We gotta find the German battleship that's making such a fuss. We have to sink the Bismarck 'cause the world depends on us. We hit the decks a-running, boys, we spun the guns around, and when we find the Bismarck, we gotta cut her down. The Hood found the Bismarck, and on that fatal day, the Bismarck started firing from 15 miles away. We gotta sink the Bismarck, was the battle sound. But when the smoke had cleared away, the mighty hood went down. For 6 long days and weary nights, they tried to find her trail. Churchill told the people, put every ship a sail, 'cause somewhere on that ocean, I know she's gotta be. Sink the Bismarck was the battle cry that shook the 7 seas. We've had to find the German battleship that's making such a fuss. We have to sink the Bismarck 'cause the world depends on us. We hit the decks a running, boy, we spun the guns around, and when we find the Bismarck, we have to cut her down. The fog was gone the Sabbath day and saw the morning sun. 10 hours away from homeland, the Bismarck made its run. The admiral of the British fleets had turned the bows around. We found that German battleship and we're gonna cut her down. The British guns were aimed and the shells were coming fast. The first shell hit the Bismarck, they knew she wouldn't last. That mighty German battleship isn't but just a memory. Sink the Bismarck was the battle cry that shook the 7 seas. We found the German battleship and making such a fuss. We have to sink the Bismarck 'cause the world depends on us. We hit the decks a running, boys, we spun the guns around, and when we found the Bismarck, we had to cut her down. We found the German battleship that making such a fuss. We had to sink the Bismarck 'cause the world depended on us. We hit the decks a running and we spun the guns around, and we had to find the Bismarck. We had to cut her down.